Guys, the South Korea situation is crazy, okay? The president's life's absolutely ruined after one of the dumbest decisions I've seen in my life. The dude tried to pull an Emperor Palpatine, but absolutely failed miserably. Not even half an hour after he stated what he was gonna do, the South Koreans all went to the streets and protested. Even though the weather was extremely cold and there was a snowstorm going on, they were not gonna deal with his antics. But this wasn't even close to the craziest thing that happened throughout this incident. You had the leader of the opposing party livestream himself trying to go against the orders of the president. Okay, this was absolutely wild. What essentially happened was that the South Korean president enacted martial law, hoping to seize full, unquestionable power, mobilizing the military and seeking to disrupt the entire country. In the end, though, he ended up completely underestimating his own citizens and made a grave miscalculation. Make no mistake, this will be in the history books of your children. So I figured we should probably talk about it. Let's do it. On December 3rd, around 10:27 p.m. South Korean time, the South Korean president, with no prior announcement or warning, declared martial law, emergency martial law, saying that he had to rein in the country because too many politicians were corrupt and working with the enemy, which is North Korea. He said he wanted to fix the country. Now, under the Constitution of South Korea, the president can by himself actually declare martial law. What he was doing was fully within his rights. But for South Koreans, especially the ones from older generations, martial law was bad news no matter how you worded it. The last time a martial law was imposed was in the year of 1980. A rogue general had taken over the country and imposed martial law on it, closed down all newspapers, silenced anyone who was against him. The martial law order only ended up being lifted in 1981. After 456 days of suffering. And it was only in 1987 that the Sixth Republic of Korea was written and then put into place in 1988. Ever since then, it's been a democracy and there hasn't been any martial law order imposed. So what the hell led us here? How are we here today? Well, Yoon has been the president of South Korea since 2022. But very shortly after taking office, he became very disliked by his population. South Koreans were seeing him as ineffective, someone who couldn't put into place impactful policies to advance the country forward. And by 2024, his approval rating is as low as 20%. This means that 8 out of 10 South Koreans don't like him and want him out of the office. Very recently, on November 29th, 2024, the budget that the president wants to pass for 2025 was cut by $2.9 billion. This was done by the opposition party, the Democratic Party, the same party who's been trying to investigate the wife of the president multiple times now over corruption charges, and just very recently started the process to impeach the head of the state audit agency and 3 prosecutors involved in those scandals. This led many to theorize that all these things accumulated led him to take the decision of martial law. Look, there's 2 different kinds of martial laws, emergency martial law and security martial law, okay? The most drastic one is emergency martial law, which is the one he had imposed, the same one that was used in 1980. The only thing that can stop him is the National Assembly voting to lift the martial law. That's the only threat he faces while having absolute power. The initial reaction in the West to this was K-pop stans being worried that their favorite K-pop groups were not going to perform anymore, because after the martial law was imposed, major entertainment companies were canceling events. As the news was starting to reach the West, we received more updates from South Korea. The martial law commander was announced. It was going to be a man by the name of Park An-soo. He then proceeded to shock the world with his first announcement after taking over this position, that all activities related to the National Assembly and political parties are now banned. It was very clear now why the president was so secretive, why there were no prior announcements. He had announced the martial law order at 10:30 p.m. so that the National Assembly members could not make it to the National Assembly. The military had been mobilized to block all access to the National Assembly, and the older generation was having terrible flashbacks back to the year of 1980. Even after fully understanding the situation, the opposition Democratic Party urgently summoned its members of the National Assembly Assembly. The South Korean people were aware of these efforts, so they made their way to the National Assembly to help them. There's this clip right here that went absolutely viral of a woman holding a rifle in front of her and not giving a single shit about what would happen if it was shot. Watch. Open the door. You know what? Something like, yeah. Wow. He had sent the military, he had sent helicopters flying over the National Assembly trying to dissuade people from even approaching it, but nothing was working. The leader of the opposition party live streamed himself, sneaking into the National Assembly by hopping over a fence. Like, this is something that you don't see at all. This is crazy. People were in full defiance here. This is such an incredible image that really shows you how the South Korean people came together very quickly to make sure that all the parliament members get through to the National Assembly. The members were able to sneak into the National Assembly and start the vote. However, the military was still trying to stop them. 190 members of the National Assembly were able to make it and vote yes to lift the martial law order, completely defying the president. Thankfully though, 6 hours after declaring the martial law order, he did another speech acknowledging the National Assembly's vote and completely lifting it. As soon as he did that, the soldiers started leaving the National Assembly, retreating and getting back to their normal lives. The South Korean people pretty much won, making sure to not repeat the same events that had happened in 1980. I think it's common sense to say that if you want to arrest your political opponents, that is pretty much against what democracy stands for. That's a very serious accusation. Shortly after, the Democratic Party floor leader, Park Chan-dae, called for President Yoon to step down immediately, saying President Yoon cannot avoid the charge of treason. He must step down immediately. As this was all happening, the senior aides and secretaries of the president have started resigning in droves. At this point, it's almost guaranteed he's going to get impeached and most likely also probably thrown into jail.
Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and tap the notification button for the latest update. Exclusively on Epic Media.